The first time I saw her, I thought my eyesight had gone haywire. I was standing in the central hall of the Interstellar Liaison Station on Zypheron Prime, a neutral hub orbiting the Lumira star. Humans were still rare here, and I, a low-level engineer who had been sent to manage interspecies tech interfaces, felt more like an observer than a participant. And then she appeared.
Tall.
Graceful. Eyes that shimmered like twin nebulae. Hair that glowed faintly in a way that made shadows dance differently around her. And a presence so commanding it didn't just fill the room. It seemed to reconfigure it. She walked toward me with a slow, measured pace. The station fell into an unspoken silence. Aliens from dozens of species seemed to pause mid-step, waiting. And then came the translation. "You are my assigned mate," a voice said, not from her lips, but inside my mind. Clear, melodic, with a subtle undercurrent that felt like a command, yet also a plea. I blinked. My stomach lurched. "You what?" I whispered aloud. "I am your bride," she replied, her lips curving faintly. "Do not resist." The assignment. I learned later that assigned mate wasn't just ceremonial. It was an intergalactic alliance practice designed to create bonds between species to maintain political stability. A human marrying an alien was not unusual, but being paired with someone of her stature, someone already shrouded in whispers of power, was extraordinary. Her name was Alythara, or at least that was what her people called her. I had heard rumors, whispers among the station staff. "She's the daughter of the triumvirate," they said. "She wields authority over sectors the size of solar systems." And yet, here she was, assigned to me, a human engineer who had spent most of his life fixing power conduits and recalibrating propulsion arrays. It didn't make sense. I spent the first hours avoiding her gaze, fumbling through introductions with stilted words, wondering if she could read my fear as easily as she had read my mind. "I know you are overwhelmed," Alythara said finally, almost tenderly. "I can feel it." I'm not overwhelmed," I stammered. This is sudden." She tilted her head. Her hair shimmered like solar flares in miniature. "Sudden is relative. For me, this has been centuries in planning." I froze. Centuries. The first night. The sleeping quarters assigned to us were minimal, 2 beds and a quiet room at the station's uppermost level. Humans typically had privacy, but the AI monitoring the station insisted we share space, claiming it would help with bond stabilization. I avoided looking at her as I lay down. I could hear her thoughts faintly at first, probing politely, cautiously. And then, slowly, they became insistent. "You are frightened," she said. "Yes," I admitted. "I'm afraid of a lot of things." "Name them," she prompted. I tried, listing the obvious. Being alone in a foreign station, being paired with an alien, being unprepared for whatever political consequences might come. She listened, and when I finished, she didn't laugh. She didn't scoff. She simply said, "All of that will change. Eventually. But you must trust me first." The revelation. The next few days were a blur. Alythara escorted me to alien assemblies, explained protocols I didn't understand, introduced me to beings whose names could fracture the human tongue, and demonstrated powers I couldn't fully comprehend. At first, I thought it was ceremonial, a kind of ritual authority. But I was wrong. One morning, while adjusting the station's energy conduits, I heard a commotion from the observation deck. Alythara had moved to intercept a small fleet of rogue ships approaching Zypheron Prime. I followed, and what I saw left me speechless. She raised her hands, or rather, extended her presence. Waves of energy rippled out, and the fleet halted mid-flight. Communication was immediate. Commands, suggestions, warnings, all absorbed, all obeyed. The ships shifted course, Not because of weapons, but because she willed it. I realized then that she wasn't just a princess. She wasn't just politically powerful. She was a force of nature, a living conductor of galactic will. And somehow she had been assigned to me, learning to live with her. Life became a strange balance of awe and anxiety. I still had my routines, fixing systems, calibrating engines, but Alythara was always near, always present. Not as a threat, but as a constant reminder that everything I knew about power and control was pale in comparison. One night, we sat in the observation chamber, looking at the stars. I had finally dared to speak openly. "Why me?" I asked. Her gaze drifted to a distant binary star system. "Because you are human." I laughed nervously. "That's it." "No," she said softly. "Because you are unpredictable. You do not bend easily. You question. You resist. And in our history, that quality is rare and valuable." I swallowed. I didn't feel valuable. I felt tiny. "You make me feel insignificant," I admitted. She turned to me, her expression unreadable. "Insignificant to you, perhaps. To the galaxy, you are a catalyst." A catalyst. The word repeated in my mind as we sat there, silent except for the hum of the station and the pulse of the distant stars. The political crisis. Then it all escalated. Reports came of a rebellion on the Zelpharian Rim, a region under her direct authority. A faction had broken away, threatening to destabilize trade routes and communications across multiple star systems. Alythara prepared to intervene. And, to my horror, she invited me to accompany her. "Why me?" I asked, panic rising. "I'm just a human engineer." "You are more than that," she said. "I need someone who can see through bias, who can think unconventionally. That is you." We traveled faster than I thought possible, navigating wormholes, subspace channels, and alien navigation grids that I could barely comprehend. And as we approached the rebellion's fleet, I realized something terrifying. She expected me to help her lead it. I was terrified. I was unqualified. But she didn't ask for my approval. She asked for my presence. The Battle of the Zelpharian Rim. The rebellion fleet waited for us, armed with weapons designed to disrupt energy fields, disable ships, and corrode even the toughest hulls. Alythara's fleet was outnumbered, but she was calm. I watched as she extended her consciousness again. Waves of influence radiated outward. Rebel captains hesitated mid-order, ships slowed, weapons froze. She turned to me. "Now." I had no idea what she wanted me to do, but instinct took over. Using the system's interface I had helped maintain for months, I redirected energy flows, amplified shielding arrays, and stabilized key nodes of her command fleet. In that moment, I realized something profound. Our partnership worked, not because I had powers, but because I complemented hers. Where she was a force of nature, I was a grounding presence, a mind that could channel her raw power into strategy. The rebellion collapsed in minutes. Ships surrendered. Communications opened. And Alythara, regal and calm, deactivated her energy field with a single gesture. I stood there, shaking, staring at her. "You survived that?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "You helped. Together, we survived." The revelation of true power. After the battle, she finally spoke of herself fully. "I am the heir to the triumvirate," she said. "The ruler of 5 major systems, countless colonies, and thousands of ships. And until now, I have never been so unprepared for a companion." "You mean me?" "Yes," she said, her voice softening. "I am powerful, but not complete. Power alone is hollow. It requires understanding, judgment, humanity, and you bring that." I felt a mix of pride and fear. She was saying that a human mind, mine, could balance galactic power. I swallowed hard. I feel insignificant. She reached out and took my hand. You are not. You are everything I need. The marriage that changed the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, our bond became official in the eyes of her people. Ceremonies were held that spanned planetary capitals, fleets aligned, and ambassadors from dozens of species attended. But beneath the grandeur, it wasn't just a political marriage.
It was a partnership.
I learned to live with her power, to anticipate it, to guide it where necessary. And in turn, she learned to trust a human perspective, to see that even small decisions could ripple through systems in ways even she could not predict. I was still an engineer, still a human, but now I was a part of a galactic legacy I could never have imagined. And she, for all her power, had allowed herself to be vulnerable in a way only a mate could allow. The threat that loomed. Of course, not everything was peaceful. There were factions that resented her, aliens who doubted the Union, and humans who feared interspecies dominance. One evening, as we observed a new fleet arriving from an uncharted system, Alythara looked at me, her gaze sharp. They do not accept our partnership, she said. They never will, I admitted. Then we must show them what unity means, she said. Her hands moved subtly, and energy flared across the observation deck, projecting her presence into subspace communications. Entire systems paused, unsure whether to attack or retreat. She turned to me with a faint smile. Together, we are unstoppable. Acceptance. Months passed. Slowly, the galaxy accepted us. The triumvirate began considering reforms, with a human perspective integrated into decision-making for the first time. My input mattered. My voice was heard. And Alythara, well, she was still awe-inspiring, still terrifyingly powerful, but she had learned trust in a way she never had before. One evening, as we watched the twin suns of Zypheron Prime set, she leaned against me. You know, she murmured, I never imagined a human could make me feel complete. I smiled, feeling the weight of the galaxy in my chest and realizing how small I once thought I was. And I never imagined marrying an alien would make me feel this powerful, I said. She laughed softly, a sound that seemed to ripple through the station's corridors. Power, she said, is nothing without someone to share it with. And in that moment, I realized she was right. The end. I had married an alien. Not just any alien. The most powerful being in the galaxy. And yet, somehow, she had made me feel equal. Together, we reshaped politics, saved systems from rebellion, and created a legacy where human and alien could stand together as equals. The galaxy would never forget her, or the human who stood by her side, and neither would I.